My name is Sasha Kegler, and I've made an observation tonight, and that is that you really like the word choice. You like to tell us that farmers have choice and that consumers have choice. But if there's something we've seen over and over again with genetically engineered seeds, it's that they are not contained. When these seeds are used, there's cross-contamination. And what I want to ask you is, how is it just for the biotech industry to introduce into agriculture a product which takes away from the necessary purity of organic farming? Essentially what I want to ask you is, if you can't control your product, and your product deteriorates the integrity of organic agriculture, why should you be allowed to use it? And I would ask you to please answer that question without using the word choice at all. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I think after 15 years of history, I think it's safe to say that we've been able to demonstrate, farmers have been able to demonstrate that different farming systems can coexist. I think that's fair to say. Certainly, the greatest part of my experience in Western Canada, where, as I said earlier, I do farm, I think coexistence has proven itself to be not easily done necessarely, but
does coexistence not imply that you don't infringe upon someone else's ability to produce their crop in their way?
Let him answer. Let him answer.
So the second part of that coexistence is, because you can't stop gene flow to zero, okay, 8 miles we're going to be away from that crop, it's going to be 0.0000, whatever it is, depending on the seed. What we need, as people have mentioned earlier tonight, the practical scientific way of going about this is to have a low-level presence policy. Then, what Rennie mentioned, the third piece that you need is synchronous approvals around the world, okay? We've been able to do that largely on the chemistry side and the pesticide side. The world actually came together through Codex and agreed to some maximum residue limits, so we can generally get trade around the corner. Fourthly, it also requires good stewardship in terms of how you farm within the community. So I'm not saying it's easy. I am saying coexistence has happened. I believe it can happen. Does it require stewardship and LLP policy and synchronicity of approvals? Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay. Allison? Thank you, Lauren. Allison?
Yeah, I think that the point that's been raised is a really valid one. I mean, we have flax, we have Starlink corn, we have Liberty, despite the argument or the points that have been made about golden rice. We have had GE rice that's been released into the food system, and it was a big problem. It cost about, so far, $1.3 billion in the United States. So I think that what we've seen to date is that it's very difficult to have an effective segregation system. And I think that the point that the questioner or that the gentleman was trying to make was, why should the burden be on people farmers who don't want to have genetically engineered content in their fields and people who don't want to eat genetically engineered food? And I think that you still don't have an answer to your question, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that's
So I think the good news on the gene flow issue is that there are some molecular tricks out there. I'm not talking about Terminator. There are some molecular tricks out there that one can do. And I think we need to have a regulatory policy that puts that incentivizes companies to use those tricks and to spend some money investigating those tricks to, if not stop gene flow, at least mitigate the effects of it. And so I think that's very promising.
Right.